Hello, my dear grandchildren. I have a completely different story here for you today. It's called Cowardly Clyde, and it's by Bill Peet. This is one that I happened to pick up at the library, and I remember reading it many years ago, and it was a favorite here at our house, so I thought you guys might enjoy it. Cowardly Clyde. Are you curious who Clyde is? Could be the knight. Do you see this knight in his armor? Could be the horse. Could be somebody else. Let's find out. Cowardly Clyde. Here's the picture. Here we go. Do you see them? Great big huge horse and a knight on his back. Do you see what he's holding in his hand? You see his sword? He has a sword in his hand, doesn't he? Let's read the words. Once there was a brave young knight known as Sir Gallivant, who rode around on a great war horse. Yeah, that's his big war horse, so huge. Shouting, "Bring on the fire-breathing dragons! Bring on the man-eating giants! Bring on the ogres and trolls! I'll clobber the brutes, I will!" All the shouting was upsetting to Clyde, the great war horse. He wasn't the least bit brave, and he worried about what he would do if Sir Gallivant ever got his wish and met some horrible monster in a fight to the finish. So the knight was brave, but the horse was a little bit afraid. It says he was not in the least bit brave. Well, the opposite of brave is to be afraid. So there's Clyde again. And I want you to see, oh, look what's happening here. There's a scarecrow from the farm field. And see all the dogs? Do you see them? They're all barking at Clyde. Can you tell? Making Clyde feel very afraid. Let's see what it says. I'm going to hold it so you can see as much as possible. Clyde didn't want anyone to know he was a coward. A coward is someone who's afraid of a lot of things. Someone who's not brave. Clyde didn't want anyone to know he was a coward, so he pretended to be brave by prancing around with his chest out and his nose in the air. But his uppity act didn't fool the farm dogs. They could spot a coward a mile away and always had great fun barking at the jittery horse, just to watch his eyes roll and his ears twitch. Clyde was so skittish that even a cross-eyed old scarecrow gave him the creeps. He's even afraid of the scarecrow. And when he heard the news that a gigantic ogre was on the rampage far out in the countryside, the faint-hearted horse was horrified. You know, they say that the knight is brave and Clyde, the horse, is a coward, but we're all afraid of some things, aren't we? And we can all be brave about some things. Let's see if Clyde figures out how to be brave about anything. Oh boy, what's going on here? Let's have a look at the picture, okay? We have a lot of people here. There's the Sir Gallivant on the horse, on Clyde. But see all the people They're carrying their things and leading their animals, and they're leaving the area. See them? The ducks and the geese are even going. People have their things loaded up on wagons, and they're all on their way. Okay? Let's see if I can hold it about here and you can see as much as possible. And we'll read the words. The monster always attacked in the middle of the night, kicking in barn doors and ripping off rooftops to get at the livestock. Livestock's another name for farm animals. It was a time of terror for the farmers and their families, and since they had no way to fight the huge beast, they decided to abandon their farms and flee to some faraway place. They scurried down the roads by the hundreds, taking their animals and all the things they could possibly cart or carry along with them. "Here, here, no need to panic," shouted the brave Sir Gallivant. "Don't lose your heads. I'll throttle the monster in a trice. I'll finish him before tea time." What do you think? Will Sir Gallivant be able to beat the monster and let the people come back to their homes and their farms? What do you think? Will he be brave when he needs to be? And what about Clyde? Here's Clyde. "No, no, not that easy," warned an old farmer. "I got a peek at the monster last night. He's a whopper of a thing." Here's the farmer talking to him. "He's a whopper of a thing. A giant, owl-eyed, ox-footed ogre, nearly as big as a barn. A night-prowling beast who never shows himself in broad daylight. Never. They say he hides out by day, far back in the woods to the north of here. But anyone who dared go in after him would be a dim-witted noodlehead." "Well, then I'm a dim-witted noodlehead," laughed Sir Gallivant, "and I'm off to meet the owl-eyed ogre. Gee up, Clyde boy, let's go." What do you think? Is Sir Gallivant a noodlehead? I've never been called that before. Let's see. So there they are. They're going off to try to find the ogre. Oh my, look on the ground here. Do you see the ogre tracks? See, there's ogre tracks. And look at that barn. Oh my goodness. Something's torn a hole right in the top of the barn. Let's see what it says. As Clyde galloped on north across the fields and cow pastures, he was hoping they would never find the ogre or even a sign of him. But pretty soon, to the horses' dismay, they came upon a barn with half the roof ripped off. Half the roof ripped off, and all around the barn were the huge two-toed tracks of the monster. "He must be a whopper," exclaimed Sir Gallivant. "With tracks like these, we'll catch up to the beast in no time. Clyde boy, we're in luck." Sir Gallivant is very, very happy about finding the tracks. Do you think Clyde is as happy as Sir Gallivant is? Let's see. Oh boy. What is Clyde afraid of this time? More tracks. And then, ooh, a spooky old forest. Can you see? Let's see what the words are. They followed the ogre's tracks on across a grassy meadow until they disappeared into the dark, gloomy woods. They were about to enter the woods when Clyde thought of the farmer's grim warning, and a cold shiver ran through him that left his knees so weak and wobbly he staggered to a halt. Now Clyde's really afraid. "Ho, ho, come now," scoffed Sir Gallivant. "Don't tell me my noble high-stepping steed has turned into a chicken." Sight of those woods and those big tracks going into the woods made him feel pretty afraid. No horse can stand to be called a chicken, not even such a cowardly one as Clyde. So, with an angry snort, he headed on into the gloomy woods. What do you think they'll find in there? Well, Sir Gallivant put his visor down so his face is protected. He's ready. Do you see his heavy armor on? And he has his shield and his sword. And there's Clyde, looking pretty afraid. And oh my, look at the bones on the ground. More bones, more bones. What do you think about that? That looks like a pretty spooky place, doesn't it? Let's see. It was ever so quiet in the woods, with no sign of a bird or a squirrel. The only sound was the clumpity-clumping of Clyde's big feet. And as they went along through the dark, the brush became so dense they lost the monster's tracks. But they could still follow the scattering of bones left from the ogre's feasting. Then pretty soon a huffling, snuffling noise echoed through the trees, like the breathing of some gigantic thing. "The time has come," muttered Sir Gallivant, clamping his visor shut and getting a good grip on his sword. And all at once, there in the deep shadows was the terrible ogre. Let's see. Oh, there it is. Have you ever seen anything like that before? I think most people would be a little bit afraid if they came across a creature like that. What do you think? Well, let's look at this picture, this part of the picture first. The great hulking beast was sprawled out on his back in the oak trees, sound asleep and snoring. "What a cinch," whispered the knight. "The brute is far off in dreamland, out of this world. I could slit his gullet in a twinkling and he'd never know it." "But that wouldn't be sporting, would it, Clyde? Would it, Clyde boy? Not fair at all." He thinks that if he were to hurt the ogre while it was asleep, it wouldn't be fair. Then, to the horse's horror and amazement, Sir Gallivant shouted, "On guard!" He's waking the ogre up, so it'll be a fair fight. Oh dear. That seems to have made Clyde more afraid than ever. Let's see, did it work? Did he wake up? Oh, you bet he did. There he is. Look at those claws. The startled monster reared up with an angry woof, his fierce owl eyes searching everywhere at once. "We fool!" he gleefully squealed when he spied the knight on horseback right under his great horned snout. The greedy ogre was always hungry enough to eat a horse and also a knight in armor, saddle and all. Oh dear. To eat all of them? The knight, the horse, the armor, everything. And he leapt to the attack just as Sir Gallivant lashed out with his sword. But they both missed when Clyde swerved to one side to escape the terrible claws. Then the panicky horse was off and away, running through the woods at a furious gallop. Clyde is running away. He is not going to stay around to see Sir Gallivant fight the ogre. Look at how fast he's running. You see? But something's missing. Where is Sir Gallivant? "Whoa, whoa, hold up," shouted Sir Gallivant. "Stop, stop, you chicken-livered, cowardly big lout." But the worst of all insults couldn't stop Clyde now. He's running too fast. But what happened? Oh dear, he's left Sir Gallivant behind. He was determined to save both of their necks, whether his foolhardy master liked it or not. And he kept going, full gallop, dodging past tree limbs, leaping over boulders and logs, out of the spooky old woods. So Clyde was running, and he thought he was running with Sir Gallivant. Was he running with Sir Gallivant? Maybe for a little bit, but it looks like Sir Gallivant got knocked off the horse by that tree limb. Clyde was far out in the meadow before he dared slow down to catch his breath. Then, as he took a look back to make sure they weren't being followed, he suddenly discovered his saddle was empty. Sir Gallivant was gone. He had taken a tumble way back in the woods somewhere. Clyde was more frantic than ever. For all he knew, the poor fellow had already been devoured by the ogre that would be eaten. Yet the horse would never know unless he went back into the woods to find out. And he wasn't half brave enough to do that. What should he do? He's left Sir Gallivant behind. But in the woods is the huge, scary ogre. I wonder what he should do. If there's even a slim chance, thought Clyde, that I could do something to save him, then I must take that chance. If I'm not half brave enough, then I must pretend to be brave. I'll put on a big act. You know, sometimes we can do that. We can pretend not to be afraid of something, to try it. Clyde is going to pretend to be brave. Then, snorting fiercely, just like a high-spirited steed, Clyde went charging headlong back into the gloomy old woods. Do you think that Clyde is behaving like a coward now? Or is he being brave? He still feels very afraid. But I think that if you face what you're afraid of and you don't run away from it, I think that's being brave. I think it's okay to say I'm still scared. What do you think? Well, he's going to go back in and find Sir Gallivant. Let's see. He's peeking out from behind from behind a tree. He is a horse. Let's see what he sees. There's the ogre. And there's Sir Gallivant. Oh my goodness. When Clyde reached the spot where they had first met the monster, he was stopped short by a great roaring burst of laughter. Gahoof, gahoof, gahoof. The giant beast was in a frolicsome mood, playing the old cat and mouse game. And the mouse was Sir Gallivant. Even though he had no chance of winning, the heroic young knight put up a furious fight, swinging away with his sword while the ogre kept jabbing at him with a claw that sent him sprawling. Clyde knew the game could end in a second with one crunching bite, unless a horse got into the game. What do you think Clyde can do? He can't fight the ogre. Look how big it is. And Sir Gallivant has a sword and a shield and all that armor, and he's trying to fight the ogre, and he's not going to win like that. What can Clyde do you think? Well, let's see. Oh, look at that. To get the monster's attention, Clyde suddenly sank his teeth into his scaly blue tail. "Arf!" cried the ogre, who was much more surprised than hurt. He had never been bitten before, and he whirled around in a snarling fury. He's very angry, can you see? But now he's not poking at Sir Gallivant. Then as Clyde turned to run, the ogre forgot about the knight, and in great leaps and bounds came chasing after Clyde, just as the horse had expected him to. Well, he got his attention, didn't he? That was very clever and brave, Clyde. There he goes running. Once again, Clyde was galloping away through the woods, but this time not nearly so fast. He was getting leg weary after so much running, and the ogre was surprisingly quick for such a big, clumsy, ox-footed thing. Oh my, look how close the ogre is. He's almost ready to catch Clyde's tail. He's surprisingly fast. He's catching up to Clyde quickly, isn't he? Oh dear. He came waffling and gruffling on through the trees, gaining with every giant step. Then in one wild grab, he caught the horse by the tail. Poor Clyde. He tried to save Sir Gallivant, and now the ogre is catching him. What will happen? That would have been the finish for poor Clyde if he hadn't reached the edge of the woods. In one last desperate lunge, can you see him just pulling as hard as he can? One tremendous surge of horsepower. He made it out into the meadow and hauled the huge ogre out after him. See, he's pulling the ogre out of the trees and into the meadow. It's taking all his hard work, isn't it? Suddenly, it was the ogre's turn to be terrified. He had been caught by surprise out in broad daylight with the sun glaring down at him. What will happen? What happens if the sun shines on the ogre? An owl-eyed monster who thrives on darkness and gloom can't last 10 seconds in the bright sunlight. And he knew it. He let go of the horse and burst into horrible howls and screeches that could be heard all the way to Twickenham. Oh my goodness. Clyde was exhausted, but the sun has made the ogre afraid. Sir Gallivant came dashing out of the woods just in time to see what happened. To see the monster explode in one big kerpuffle. And just like that, he was gone. Clyde, stammered the flabbergasted knight. Did you see that? The big brute's gone. Vanished. Gone in one big kerpuffle. Amazing. Fantastic. I must spread the great news. Tell everyone. Come on, Clyde, gee up, let's go. Were you expecting that? Neither was I. I guess the ogre couldn't be out in the sun. He exploded and then he was gone. Wow. Sir Gallivant sent Clyde racing along the countryside to catch up with the frightened farmers. But he suddenly realized that they would never believe that such a huge beast could vanish in one big kerpuffle. So he quickly made up a better ending for the ogre. Hear this, he shouted. I have clobbered the monster, slashed him to bits and pieces. Just one big banquet for the buzzards. He's gone forever. The wonderful news was greeted with resounding cheers and shouts of joy that echoed for miles around. And Sir Gallivant was an instant hero. So he told them that the monster was gone, and everyone was happy to hear it. You think they can go home to their farms now? How about Clyde? How does he look? I think he's looking pretty brave right there, isn't he? when we face the things that we're afraid of, it can make us feel very brave. You see him now? Look at the farm dogs. Are they still barking at him? After that, when Clyde went prancing along with his chest out and his nose in the air, he really was feeling brave. The farm dogs could sense it at once, and they gave up barking at him. It was no fun barking at a horse who won't twitch an ear or even bat an eye. But after all, a horse who bites a giant ogre on the tail and lives to trot another day is just about as brave as anyone can be. The end. I hope you enjoyed the story. I love you.